out. So the agenda is a little bit different than our typical meeting that we have at City Hall in our chambers. And so I'll just walk you through what to expect tonight as we call this meeting to order, and then we'll get started with a few items to start with. City Clerk, do we have a translator here tonight?
Yes, somewhere.
Okay, all right. So tonight we will start by doing a few formalities, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Doug Matthews, who will provide a brief facilitation to provide some information about a recent community survey and our participatory budgeting process. And then after that, we are going to break, and we'll go out into the main area where you saw the round tables, and we'll be able to have some smaller round table discussions. Mr. Matthews will talk to you about what that will look like. And then at 7 p.m. prompt, we'll come back in here, and then we'll go through our process where we will provide an opportunity for public comment. So we'll have one public comment period at the start of our meeting for both agenda items and any other items or any other topics. I'll turn it to my colleagues on the commission to make any comments, and then we'll move through the agenda with the approval of the minutes and so forth. And then we do have one scheduled public hearing tonight, and that is on a brownfield, it's a brownfield plan amendment for a project at 280 Ann. So if you're here to speak on that item, I'm going to ask you to stay put until quite a bit later in the evening until we open up that public hearing. So with that, I'll ask you to join me for a moment of silence. Then we'll move to Pledge of Allegiance and roll call. We'll introduce the interpreter after that, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Matthews. So if you'll join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll have roll call.
We'll start with the third ward tonight. Commissioner Lanier.
Present.
Commissioner Moody. Present. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Asasi.
Present.
Commissioner Repart.
Here.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Present.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes. And then if we can introduce our interpreter tonight. So if you need assistance with interpretation services, please let us know, and we'll make sure that you have the support that you need.
Hello, my name is Keith. I'm an interpreter with the Hispanic Center. If there are any Spanish speakers tonight that want to be heard in the meeting, you can go ahead and let us know, and I'll be up to assist you. Buenas tardes, me llamo Keith, soy intérprete con el Centro Hispano. Si hay algún hispanohablante aquí que quiere ser escuchado en la reunión, solo nos dice y yo vengo para ayudarle.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so with that, we will turn it over to Mr. Matthews to provide some information for all of us, and then we'll break, and then we'll come back together. And as I said, the first item on our agenda will be public comment period for agenda items and all other items that you wish to speak about, and then we'll move forward with our business. Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Mayor. Technically, the first item on our agenda will be public comment. Out in the atrium there, we've got an engagement activity scheduled today, and we're going to tell you a little bit about the what and the why of that, and hopefully you'll join us for that. First of all, just wanted to talk to you about some of the things that we've had going on over the last couple of months, and something that we have coming up, actually, in November. Participatory budgeting, if you all did not participate or were not aware, about 18 months ago in the last budget cycle, the commission set aside $2 million distributed across the 3 wards to fund resident-provided ideas and opportunities. The residents provided the ideas. A resident committee guided that process. We had a group of residents that vetted those ideas and made a final list that was then put out into the community for each one of the wards to vote on the projects that they wanted to see funded. And at the end of my presentation, I'm actually going to share with you what the results of that voting was. The second item here is on public safety engagement. So realizing that as we work to revise the police department's strategic plan, as we work to think differently about what public safety means, both within and outside of traditional policing, we've brought in the National Civic League, who is a national organization, a nonprofit, whose sole purpose is to focus on engagement and relationships between residents, government, and community organizations. And they've led conversations in a number of communities around specifically the relationship that cities, counties, police organizations, and communities have with one another. And they have fellows that have done this work in a number of other cities. Most recently, they were in Aurora, Colorado. They've been in Elgin, Illinois, and a number of other organizations. So they're going to be in town actually next week, meeting with some local community leaders, some leaders within the city, to get a better sense of what the expectations for that might be. And then in November, they're going to be having meetings in the community and with the community to have conversations about what safety means to you. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. We'll be putting more information out about that as those dates start to get scheduled, and hopefully you'll be able to participate. So tonight we're going to talk about the National Community Survey. About 6 weeks ago, we made a presentation to the Commission, shared the results of this survey. It's a national survey that we do. We plan to do every other year so that we can measure our performance as an organization, but also what are the dynamics in the city, the keys to livability, to feelings of safety, infrastructure, sense of community, neighborhoods, to check the general health of our community. So we did one of these in 2019, and the goal after that survey was that we were going to take the data that we received, and we were going to go back out into the community, and we're going to have conversations to put context around that data, to get stories, to get feedback on, okay, well, this is what the score was in your ward. What does that mean? And what do we need to keep in mind as we're developing our own plans, as we're developing budgets and strategies? And then, of course, shortly after that, COVID happened and the whole dynamic changed. So this has been our first opportunity to actually get out and have this conversation after having conducted the survey. So the results that I'm going to be sharing with you are specific to the Third Ward. This is the data for the survey. We had about 6,000 households that we had distributed to with 750 return surveys. These are the benchmark communities that also give the same survey. What this does is it gives us context for our results. How are we performing locally, but then also how are we performing relative to other communities around the country? So here's some of the areas of strength that we found. You'll notice opportunities for culture, arts, music, the community support for the arts. Those were areas that we had strength relative to other communities around the country. Water resources, bus or transit services, ease of travel by public transportation. All of these are areas where we either scored above the population benchmarks, which are cities that are relatively the same size as us, or national benchmarks, which are cities regardless of the size. You'll see here the areas with the yellow stars. Those are areas where the data told us that we really needed to focus. Those are areas when we asked the community, how are we performing? We weren't performing as well as we would like. How important is it to you? It was pretty important. So these yellow ones are areas where we need to do better. The green are areas where we were performing well and the community said it was important to them. So these are a couple of the key findings. First of all, overall, residents enjoy a positive quality of life relative to other communities that were in the survey cohort. And what I'm going to show you in each one of these slides, the purple here is the score citywide. The green is the score specifically for the Third Ward. And the idea is to start to get some context within each one of the wards of how are we performing specific to those areas. So here you'll see overall quality of life. Grand Rapids is a place to live. Your neighborhood is a place to live. While they were consistent with the benchmark communities, they were lower in the Third Ward than they were in our citywide scores. Safety remains a priority. When we asked respondents to tell us what were the most important aspects of our strategic plan that we needed to focus on, the green is either essential or very important. And you'll see by far safe community was the most important thing that respondents wanted us to focus on. So when we look at that for the third ward, we asked a series of questions. How safe do you feel in your neighborhood during the day? How safe do you feel in your neighborhood at night? And then the same thing for downtown during the day, downtown at night, and then overall feeling of safety in the city of Grand Rapids. You'll see that the scores for neighborhood and for downtown during the day, third ward wasn't a whole lot different than the scores for the city as a whole. Anything that we marked with these circles are areas where we had a 6% or greater difference, and that's because that's the statistical margin of error that we had in the survey. But then you move down here, you see if you look at downtown at night and the overall safety score, those are lower than the citywide responses when we asked the third ward specifically. If you look at the services that are provided by the city, we've got fire, police, ambulance, crime prevention, and emergency preparedness. Fire, you see, is actually a little bit higher rated in the third ward. Police is lower, ambulance and EMS is lower, crime prevention is lower, emergency preparedness is about the same. Interaction with the justice system. One of the questions that we ask is, did you have any interaction with police or the courts over the last year, yes or no? If you did, were you treated with fairness and respect? So the percentage here in the third ward was slightly higher, 25% relative to 22%, that did have some level of interaction with the justice system. When we asked, were you treated with fairness and respect, you'll see that the citywide score was 77%, the third ward score was 83%. The next one is the economy. We have a series of questions here that we asked, rating overall economic health, Grand Rapids is a place to visit, downtown vibrancy, employment opportunities, and Grand Rapids is a place to work. The areas where you see the stars are areas where we actually hire not just our population benchmark cities, but the national benchmark cities as well. And there wasn't a measurable difference in the response from the third ward relative to the city as a whole. Residents have a mixed view when it comes to inclusivity, and that was pretty clear in the results that we got back. This is a series of questions that they ask about attracting people from diverse backgrounds, valuing and respecting residents from diverse backgrounds, taking care of vulnerable residents, and our ability to make all residents feel welcome in the community. You'll see when we talk about attracting people from diverse backgrounds, taking care of vulnerable residents, there wasn't a big difference between the citywide score and the Ward 3 score, but there was a notable difference when you talk about valuing residents from diverse backgrounds, making all residents feel welcome. And contextually, I think it's important to point out that the question wasn't, how does the city, as an organization, do this? It's how the city, as a community, does this. Now, of course, the city has some contribution that we can make to this, but a lot of these questions are not just about the city's performance, but the community's performance as a whole. Utilities and infrastructure are also a priority for the community. You'll see that the third ward scores were pretty consistent with the citywide scores across these areas where the city provides service. Refuse collection was pretty high. Drinking water, pretty good. Street repair, not so much. Snow removal, pretty good. Ease of public parking, interesting, the score from the third ward was almost 10% higher when we ask about how easy is it to find public parking than we asked that citywide. So a couple of things that I wanted to note in regards to the public participation, and some of this has to do, I personally think, with the dynamics that we're going through right now, as well as the dynamics that we've been through in regards to COVID, in regards to the social experiences that we've had over the last few years. But these are questions that are also asked in the survey, and you see, when we ask about contacting local officials, attending public meetings, volunteering time in your community, or campaigning for candidates or issues, all of those numbers dropped pretty significantly from when we did this survey back in 2019. So, quick update on participatory budgeting. I gave this update to the commission this morning. This is specific to the third ward. We had more than 600 votes cast here in the third ward for these projects. And these were the ones that came out on top through that process. Number one was focusing on lead in the water, lead water line replacement. Number two was providing affordable child care for second and third shift workers. Number three, providing youth affordable housing support. And number four was to initiate a pilot on community-based violence reduction. So our responsibility now as an organization is to go back and develop a strategy for these things. In some cases, develop an RFP for a community organization to execute on these initiatives that the community told us they wanted to see funded. So what we're doing today, I mentioned at the beginning, we're kind of coloring in what it is that we got from the data. The data tells us what, but it doesn't necessarily always tell us why. So outside, we've got tables set up where you'll be able to provide your own insights, your own feelings on those areas of livability, why they're important, what it feels like for you, and maybe what are some of the things that we ought to be focused on and things that we ought to be doing as we move in to our next planning cycle, our next budget cycle. So you have four groups out there to choose from. We have community safety. That covers two of the livability aspects that are covered in the survey, overall feeling of safety, and residents' feeling of connection and engagement with the community. Second table is quality of life. That's natural environment, parks and recreation, health and wellness, education, cultural, and the arts. Economic opportunity covers economic health and the design and layout of neighborhoods and commercial areas. Then infrastructure, which is transportation and utilities. We're going to have 2 sessions. Each one of them is going to be about 25 minutes. So you can sit at any one of those tables. You'll see there's signs at the tables. Sit down. We've got departmental leadership that's at each one of the tables that will help facilitate the conversation. You're going to have this form that you can record your thoughts on. We're going to take all of these. We're going to record all the information that we've received, and we're going to distribute that back out. In fact, if you go to our survey page right now, the first ward, which was where we did our first meeting like this, all of those results have already been aggregated and posted publicly so that folks can see those. We're going to do the same thing here. So just remember, safe space for us to share our ideas and perspectives. Our folks are here to listen. Our folks are here to help facilitate, answer questions where they can, tell you if they can't. We've got a lot of folks that are here. Hopefully we'll be able to find somebody to answer that question if it's not the person sitting at your table. But there's a chance that you may have some thoughts and ideas that somebody else at that table may not agree with, and that's fine. Our idea is to collect all of those perspectives, to share those perspectives amongst the group, and then figure out what it is that we can do with that. So with that, we'll give you a little bit of time. You can go out there. We've got food. We've got beverages. You can grab yourself a sandwich, pick a table, sit down, and get started.
my colleagues to join us up here. All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to move along with the agenda tonight. We still have some city business to be done. As I said, our agenda is a little bit different tonight. Because we had the hour and a half of community engagement and dialogue, we'll combine our public comment period for both agenda items and any other items. So I'll move forward with that. So I'll open up public comment period. A couple things about public comment. We ask you to come to this podium here, share your name, the city that you live in, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. You'll be able to see the timer right here. We do ask that we do have a number of standing rules and rules for this space to ensure that it is a safe space for everyone. So we ask that you really refrain from using profanity, vulgar language, derogatory language. If you do, we'll ask you to stop. And then we also ask that you respect everyone else's opinion, even if you don't agree with it. People have a right to be heard regardless of what their opinion is or what their values are. And we want to make sure that this is a safe space for everyone to share their thoughts, even if they differ from our own. So with that, we'll open up public comment period. Again, this is for anything that we're voting on tonight or any other issue. You can come up and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak.
How you doing, everybody? My name is DeAndre Jones. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Commissioner Lanier because me and her were in the Community Spirit Awards for Link Up. She won an award and I won the Community Spirit Award, so I'm glad that all my advocacy, all of my hard work in the community has paid off. My perseverance from the participatory budgeting process, I was one of the facilitators and I was the voting coordinator, so I had to carry those 34 tablets. They were very heavy boxes, and I'm just glad to see that majority of the people that actually voted for participatory budgeting process actually went to the libraries and they voted. I've posted that every single day on all of my social media platforms and any platform that I have on the internet to make sure that people got out there and voted. It was pretty cool to go in the third ward when we had the last event at Joe Taylor. I got at least 20 people to vote. A lot of people didn't even know that you can vote. It's a couple of things I want to say about PB. I wish that the schools could have got involved. We could have had a lot more votes from the students. There's, 13-year-old kids could have had voted on where government funding. And so next year, I hope that the school district gets involved, that we can have those kids, whether we put posters, whether we put tablets, any type of QR codes, because the kids usually have cell phones and devices, and so making sure that the youth can vote. Also with the request for proposal process, it's a lot of, even though the items were generalized on PB, I hope that the city actually reaches out to those organizations who kind of had those generalized items on the ballot, so you guys send those RPFs to those people who first submitted those ideas and other organizations if they can't do that work. I would also like to say, what else did I want to say about PB? Also, the neighborhood organizations. I wish that the neighborhood organizations would have been able to get involved and be able to be voting sites, because a lot of neighborhood organizations wanted to vote. You guys gave city funding or any type of funding to the neighborhood organizations, but they were not voting sites or places, or they didn't have the information to get their people in their neighborhood association or organization to vote. Even though we had at least like 1,000 ideas, or like everything together, we had over 2,000 votes, and that's pretty good to me for the engagement that we have, but we could have a lot more. We have 200,000 people, and the difference is, which I hope the Citizen Skills Academy actually get in the community to get more informed with anything else or any type of engagement or any type of opportunities to engage with the government. Hopefully that's something that a great organization takes that funding and they educate the community on, because people didn't know the difference between the election cycle and the PB cycle. So people thought that PB had to do with the election and voting for politicians, but it was just something separate totally from the election cycle. So being able to separate that too, so people know that they're just voting where government funding is and not for a politician themselves. Also, I wanted to say that I did some research, and politicians that actually let the community know about PB, engage their citizens in PB, usually get reelected. So let people know that government funding is up for grabs and they can vote on that, and you may get elected again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. All right, others who wish to be heard? You can come on up to the podium.
Hello, Commission. My name is Brandon Bilski. I live in the 2nd Ward, and I am really happy to see this extra level of engagement by the city, and that site out there is a really good step forward. And as a civic educator and education advocate, I want to further ask that we put these back online. We can have that digital space and let people call in. It's a really low-hanging fruit. And also speak to the participatory budgeting committee and how it's been a great process despite its original intent. I want to applaud those who did the work, the community members who did it volunteer for over a year when it was only supposed to be open for several months to get that initial feedback, but it has turned into the blossoming of a seed of true democracy. And that is, I really think Grand Rapids can be a beacon on a hill, and there's a reason why we are here and have a DeVos education system, a vision and system of education that truly does leave all students behind. And I'm not trying to get political when I say I want every student to have a deep sense of civic duty and capacity to speak and to present publicly. And to have that education is to fund things like outreach and intentional civic education. So expanding the participatory budget committee to be an annual thing would be beautiful. And also the Democracy Academy is an idea that I put forth that would give an initial $100K to a Democracy Academy to ensure we have educators that are civic leaders capable of giving any teacher access to resources and tools. And with the Michigan Center for Civic Education, there's a simple pledge everyone can take to say, I'm committed to civic education, at a time when a lot of the leaders are calling out a danger right now, that things that are law, it's just history, is being problematized in a bad, negative way. So we need to defend both history and defend just proper practices of decorum and policy formation. It's unfortunately, truth is on trial here in Michigan. Truth and democracy and fact. Why? Not just political propaganda, but that very notion of community and institution. Our institutional systems are threatened. And how do we overcome when big money is in our political system? So please, spend more time, just like you're doing right here, right now, in that community space. I think that's where our attention needs to be. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. All right, others who wish to be heard?
All right, good evening. Lucas, 1st Ward. I came out tonight to do some listening. Wanted to see and hear what the concerns of those that are in a different ward than mine have. As we've all heard from many tonight in the workshop sessions, safety and crime are big concerns, just like they are for any city. And right now in GR, we've seen our mailboxes loaded to the brim with exaggerations, misrepresentations, and lies from right-wing candidates and their rich, powerful, often out-of-state puppet masters. These con artists, like Drew Robbins in my own ward, who is regularly slinging fiction about Commissioner Reppert, they seek to pollute the discourse of our city with their disinformation in lockstep with the police industrial complex, and they're utilizing fear to fool voters and tarnish our city's reputation. See, the right needs to ruin cities and drive people out of them so that the unified voting bloc against their rural, small-minded nuttiness is diminished. People are tired of the spin and the hype, and that's why some good news was nice to see here in GR. Along with a more recent report about Grand Rapids as a top place to live in this country, a recent study was published online that showed when looking at facts and actual data, Grand Rapids is the safest city in Michigan. And clap about that. Well, don't. It breaks our rules. Our city and its related groups have published that information and celebrated it very appropriately. A lot of you made sure that that happened. Thank you. It's nice to have a recent highlight of the truth that most of us already knew. GR is not a pit of dangerous criminal despair. There has been, however, Some cynicism about the report, as most people have considered it to mean that it's a safe city, but you need to be white. And I think that's a very valid concern. I've noticed it reflected among the conversations tonight. The Third Ward is over-policed and underinvested. Now, this is not the first time we've heard this inconvenient truth, and it's my hope that the leaders will take the overall win regarding those provable facts, despite the well-understood spike in crime from the pandemic. GR is part of what is actually a 20-year national decline in crime, and we should consider how not all safety is related to crime. It's my hope the next major good news will be big investments in this ward, and that leaders remember that you're part of a whole city, and you have allies waiting to engage with you just across the ward border. And I appreciate your time. Also, thanks again for doing these meetings. You know that I criticize and ask for this sort of thing. I'll call it out as a success and recognize it when I see it. So it's a great concept, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leverett. All right, others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Reggie Howard. I live in the
Reggie.
Third Ward. And really, I'm here to just pay you guys a compliment because last time I was here, I was telling you guys about a veteran organization that I want to get started. But I don't know if you've been following any news, but we opened Heroes Corner. We have our own place. But that's not to say that we don't have work to do. Next month is Veterans Day. I don't understand why we don't have signs thanking our veterans in our city. I was over in Kalamazoo, and if you go downtown Kalamazoo, they have signs with veterans' name on it thanking them. We spent almost, like $65 million for the Michigan Veterans Home, and we don't see anything being given to our veterans. As I do Heroes Corner in Grand Rapids, we still have a need. I still don't see anyone stepping up to help us out as far as moving veterans forward. It was Suicide Prevention Month. I didn't see any sign saying, hey, suicide awareness. We lose 22 veterans a day. Just think about that. We lose 22 veterans a day. That's veterans sitting in their parents' basement. Their parents is upstairs and they're downstairs. And the parents don't know what to do with them. And the veteran's afraid to go upstairs. So what do? They take their own life. We're trying, and we're making a small step. I want to see our city be a promoter for veterans' life. I want us to show our Michigan Veteran Home and our city of Grand Rapids, for us veterans that served our country, that we come back to the city of Grand Rapids with a debt of gratitude. And we're welcome in our city, and our city is a veteran-flagged city. That means we should have thank you, veterans, for your service. That means we should have publications saying that, hey, Veterans Day is coming up. This is what we want to do. We don't even see that. We put all different type of signs on buses. We have no signs saying thank you, veterans, for your service or suicide awareness. And it's just so sad. And every time I come here, I'm more and more enthused about moving forward in the city. I don't come here to criticize, I come here to ask, because I think it's all of our responsibility. We just can't expect veterans to take care of veterans. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need the civilian side of it to come alongside and walk with us. And if you don't know of a veteran, I guarantee you somebody in your family know of a veteran that have died at the hands of suicide. And if you don't know, Google it and read, and you will see we lose veterans all the time. Our city of Grand Rapids is veteran friendly, but let's just be veteran active. As I always say, as you remember, some gave some and some gave all. What are you willing to give?
Thank you. Thank you, Reggie. All right, others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Frederica from First Ward, representing Parents for Healthy Homes. As a resident of Grand Rapids in support of Parents for Healthy Homes, I urge you to implement a lead poisoning rental inspection prevention pilot program. In Grand Rapids, we do not stand for housing that poisons our children and their futures. It is unacceptable to allow almost 500 homes to repeatedly poison children and remain unchecked, not enforcing remediation work that supports a lead-safe housing environment for children and families. Our community expects rental housing to be safe from lead hazards, ensuring that children are not lead poisoned because of lack of code enforcers and supportive programming in housing. We urge you to implement a lead poisoning rental inspection prevention pilot program to begin to end the I don't know about housing situations with lead.
My name is Sarah. I live in the 3rd Ward. Parents for Healthy Homes request the following actions be taken from the City of Grand Rapids City Council 2022. We would like you to implement a lead pilot program which targets 3,000 rental homes that have been identified as high risk for poisoning children. We would like you to conduct lead dust samplings followed by implementation and enforcement of corrective actions to ensure housing safety. We would like 1 staff to oversee and implement the lead pilot program. We would like 1 staff to be hired as a housing code enforcer. And so these things are simple that the city can do, and we ask you to really take part in that and invite the community, just as you did today, invite the community in to take part of that space and helping take care of our neighbors.
My name is Latasha Williams. I am First Ward. And John O'Connor, I am asking you specifically to join on with us. I know that in the past I have heard information as far as it seems as though that you are fighting from the landlords because of the money that's in their pocket. But I will say that with homes that are being poisoned, that one day we will find a way to make sure that we hold them by law accountable for repeat offenders, meaning that they continuously moving different black and brown families into different homes that we know that other families have been previously poisoned by lead. So it's either the landlords pay now or they pay later, because we're not stopping and we're going to find a way.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out and for your work. Appreciate it. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello again, Casey from the 3rd Ward. You know, I like to come up here and talk about the flyers I got. The flyers to boil my water, the flyers about affordable housing in that cockroach-infested place that we talked about last time I saw you, Mayor Bliss. Thanks for calling LaToya back, solid. This time I got a flyer, again with your face on it, Bliss, and it's talking about some green initiative. We'll just plant trees. Volunteer for free to plant the trees for us right in your neighborhood. But 2 years ago, I got a tree planted right outside front of my house. It's growing into the power line, which is funny because on that flyer it said, clear from power lines. And then I was thinking about how my boyfriend, you guys had put a tree in his parents' right in that same spot in between the cement and the sidewalk and the road, right, that little area of grass. So the roots on that tree actually went into her sewer line, and so all the city sewer is now leaking into her basement, but they can't do anything about it because it's her line and all these like trees, right? And so I was kind of irritated about that because we don't need more trees, right? So now it's tree planting day and all the trees are laying out, and I look out the window, I can hear people digging, and I look out and I see people in volunteer police t-shirts. So I'm like, that's really insulting to the Southeast Side that you have these white police wannabes out here trying to fix the neighborhood or whatever. So you know Donnie, he goes right outside and gets asked a bunch of questions, right? And they're saying they're aspiring police, they're mentored by JRPD, and that it's fine that they're planting it right, they're planting two more trees directly under the power line. And they said it's fine because it's not an actual electric line, it's just the line to the street lights. So when they come every year from now on and you pay somebody to then cut it down, like, I'm just kind of curious. And you know what their initiative was, the person running the whole thing outside? They're doing it for mental health. That's our mental health help on the Southeast Side. Trees. But I'm still getting that flyer to boil my water. It's really interesting the stuff that you're willing to put your face on that's performative. They would not use the word gentrification. And there was probably 10 people out there all volunteering. They were all white people, one person very, very slightly brown. And when Donnie mentioned the word diversity, the lady pointed to the one brown woman and said, yeah, we're diverse. It's just the things you continue to do on the southeast side. Like, your term is going to get over. You're not a celebrity for the flyer. This is real life. Your term is going to end, and then we're going to have to rely on somebody else, hopefully sooner than later, except you, Kirk. I don't know why you don't loudly advocate, maybe just for votes, but I found out on a flyer, too, that you're actually with us on a lot of standpoints. Like, these flyers are holding me together. You get it together. Thank you.
Thanks. Your time's up. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm from Grand Rapids. Lead in the water, and residents that are in desperate need of clean water for their children, not good. If I'm parents for Healthy Homes, I would get on the individuals who are responsible and keep on getting on them until everything is complete. You don't want to be like Flint, or worse, Jackson, Mississippi, where tap water is coming out like black coffee. And forget about boiling water, they had to get bottled water. While their governor just frolicking around with their money, sending it to down south in the Gulf Coast, supporting the rich, white individuals who live down in their state, down in Gulfport, Biloxi, everywhere in that rich white area. And people like Brett Favre stealing welfare funds to support his alma mater, including the volleyball facility where his daughter was a player. You don't want that to happen here. Because we got charlatans in here that will take their money and do whatever see fit. And you'll have contaminated water where the poor children are going to suffer. So I urge you to don't wait, get it done, and get it done now. Remove J. Edgar Hoover's name from the FBI building. Remove George Wallace's name from the town of Mobile, Alabama. Justice for Patrick Leoya, Jaden Walker, and everybody else, and free Brittany Griner. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard?
I'm Kyra, as you all know. Long time no see. I've missed you all, but not really. So, of course, first and foremost, justice for Patrick Leoya. We have the killer cop, Christopher Scher, coming up for court finally at the end of the month. So that's good to see something hopefully rolling from that, because as you all know, that preferential treatment gets it postponed and postponed and postponed for months at a time. So he doesn't even have to show up for court when it's his day in court. Crazy. But justice for Patrick Leoya. I also have been seeing a lot of online things of our police officers harassing our homeless, kicking them out of places with the only available bathrooms downtown. And it's not like 1 or 2, it's like 7 or 8. And then it's like, but you guys cry that you're underfunded and understaffed, but yet you have 8 officers kicking out 3 men from Hartside Park, a park that was dedicated to our homeless. A park that has porta potties for these men to have dignity going to the bathroom. I used to live on the west side, right? And there's a lot of homeless over there, of course. Well, there was. You guys are kind of pushing them out with the fences above the bridges and things like that. But they used to shit on the sidewalks. Human feces. I would walk my baby in the stroller and there would just be human feces right there with toilet paper. But why do you think they're doing that? Because you can't even give them the dignity to use a porta potty or give them the funding to have more than 1 bathroom? You should have a bathroom on every side of the city: southwest side, southeast side, northwest side, northeast side, several downtown, in all parts of downtown. You should have 4 or 5 bathrooms just along Monroe alone. Because the people with money, they get into the businesses who allow them to use the bathrooms because they purchase something. And that's usually a water for $4 or what have you. These people matter. They deserve dignity. Most of them served for your country. But y'all don't even understand that. Instead, they're just bums to you. They're bums to you. Right? You look at them on the side of the road and you think, ugh, ugh. But not that he's suffering from PTSD because he served in a war to fight for your freedom that you guys gloat about so much. But he's left to shit on the sidewalk. Shame on all of you.
All right, others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, Terry Gates. I live in Alto, Caledonia Township. First, I want to just thank this process because it's amazing that people have a chance to give voice to their concerns and their issues that they want to deal with. And I've appreciated a chance to sit down with Nate Moody and meeting Mark and Kurt and meeting others today. And it's just an incredible opportunity that the city is open to hearing what people have to say. So thank you so much for allowing people to have a voice. The most important issue of our generation is climate change. And we don't experience it so much here, but if you lived in Fort Myers right now, you would say, really, I'm not concerned about other things that are maybe less important, but if you lived in other parts of the world, we have a serious world health crisis that it's not a political issue. It's a health issue, and we are politicizing it. But the process is what's important. And so we need to be open. We need to allow citizens to have a voice. We need to conduct surveys and analysis of where is the deepest problems, where do we have climate injustices. And there's a lot of money that's coming down through the federal government, through the Department of Energy, through the state government, and there's lots of programs that money is being funneled, but you have to ask for it, you have to be ready for it. And they're asking for matching funds, they're asking for what have you done in order to prove analysis that the problem exists. So we need to provide reliable, relevant, and trusted information. But it's the city's job to build a culture, to make transformation happen. And it's the city's role to communicate to people what's important and what are the needs. And as I look at the survey, climate justice is not one of the top ranked, and it should be. It should be number one because it permeates through every single aspect of a community, as we've heard from other people, that there's a lot of injustices that are happening in the city of Grand Rapids, and they need to be addressed. So we can activate strong actions. We can transform. Grand Rapids has been focused on by the world because of its injustices to redlining. And there's a book, City Within a City, which you've all heard of, that they show that Grand Rapids is not doing what they should be doing. And let's put Grand Rapids on the map with the wow factor that we've transformed this city into a shining example of climate justice.
Thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Ned. I live in the 3rd Ward. 2 topics that I want to cover would be, well, one, I would say thank you to all of you. It's an incredibly difficult job that you guys have, a lot of competing demands for your time and the resources. 2 things. The city of Grand Rapids in some way does abdicate some of its responsibilities. We have this phenomenon where the city itself generates these 501c3s, and then we have a variety of, when the county and the very, 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 very well-to-do come together and they make these 501c3s. And so the city's economic development department is here. That's a function of city government, but it's so often the duties and obligations are sort of cast off to these big money people who come in and say, hey, we can help you get that done because we got a big pile of money and we'll build a collaboration, and the city then turns so much. Even community engagement is often done not by the city itself, but done, hey, why don't you go over to this 501c3 and go over to that 501c3, and they look like wonderful neighborhood institutions, and yet they are planted there by the people who have more resources than all of us in the room together combined. So I'm asking the city to take back some of that authority. Let me give a specific example. So the city of Grand Rapids says, hey, we're going to be cannabis friendly. We're going to allow these dispensaries to come through, but we're going to hold them accountable. We're going to get the social equity built in here, and they're going to, ding dong, they're going to make a lot of money, but they're going to do this social equity piece. And then they didn't meet their benchmarks and metrics and so on and so forth. So then the city says, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a 501c3. When all this time, the neighborhood associations have been saying, hey, 31 neighborhoods come together once a month. You know, because you're there with us, you come to the meetings. We could function as a repository, and we could disseminate this social equity money, and we could, you should be giving the money to the people, not to the 501c, not to the city itself. The city is not a person. We are the city. And I could go on for an hour, but I only got 51 seconds. The second topic would be participatory budgeting. I see that the lead packages, I personally submitted a lead package. The city's going to put the money into lead pipes. That's a bit disingenuous in that the problem with lead, and we do, like these other folks came up, we have a lead poisoning factory in the city of Grand Rapids. 400 homes identified specifically. We can't do anything because of the landlords and the law, and change policy. Get in with legislators. Make the changes that we can hold these landlords accountable, because it's gross. When you move a family in, 2 years later they get sick and we say, oh, there's a lead poisoning incident here. And then they move out because they just learned they've been lead poisoned, and then you move the next family in. And then to say we're going to fix the lead lines that the city has to fix anyway, that the government's going to pay for anyway, and we took participatory budgeting money and we're giving it to the fixing of lead lines, which doesn't solve the lead crisis in Grand Rapids.
Thank you, Ned. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Sheena Walls, and I'd like to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and speak to you all today. I had 2 concerns. My main concern was just building a relationship with the youth and the police department. My hopes is for the city of Grand Rapids and the police department to maybe have more inter-city programs for the kids, a little bit more in depth of what the Boys and Girls Club offer with their mentorship program. I'm thinking more like the baseball team, but football or wrestling. There's no wrestling inside the inner city for the kids. It's more out in Forest Hill and East Grand Rapids. But we know that the violence is on the high rise here, and the youth It's our future, and so I just envision if the police department have more activities for the kids, the inner city kids to be more involved with, whether it's football, basketball, and how cool would it be for a kid to see a cop shooting a three-pointer and how that might change his mind and maybe in the future, in 10 years, help diversify the Grand Rapids Police Department as well. That's the biggest one. My next one is the lead as well. I stay in the 3rd Ward resident. And just last year, I received a notice that I had lead inside my pipes, which I didn't know, so it didn't bother me as much because I didn't know, but the letter being sent out did create a fear of my kid is drinking lead water. So I know that in the 3rd Ward, we did get a $1 million budget from the from the American Rescue Plan. But a lot of projects was not submitted for the 3rd Ward. So my question, or maybe not a question, but a concern is if that money is not used this year for the 3rd Ward, would the city be willing to maybe do lead filters for low-income families in the area to use up that money? Because since so many projects was not submitted for the 3rd Ward, compared to the other wards, would the city consider maybe filtering out lead filters for each low-income family home to at least have safe drinking and bathroom water? And the other one is Healthy Home Coalition is awesome, and they offer the Get the Lead Out program for $20,000, but your kid had to be 5 years old, and they also had to have asthma. Is there any way that the city can try to tweak the qualifications for that, where if you got lead in the home, you got lead in the home, and you qualify for the $20,000, whether the kid is 5 or whether the kid is 12, like mine, with asthma, but we wouldn't qualify because they're not 5. I think it's a really awesome program, and I thank the city for even having that program available, because you could do a lot with $20,000 for removing paint and getting windows done. But I do feel like it's sad that it can't go for other families if you have a kid at 5.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your comments. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Hicks, and I'm still a resident that lives just a few blocks away from here, and have so for the last 3 decades. And I love the community a lot. That's why I continue to show up and take time away from my family so I can share not only my personal feelings and experiences, but of those that I watch and have relationships with and care about, and do whatever I can to restore some type of stability to lives around me. And so for that reason, a lot of damage has been done to many, many families. And for that reason, a lot of kids don't trust police, and I don't think they should be forced to, because everyone's healing is different. The time it takes to get over that type of trauma can be lifelong. And I don't think anybody should be forced to just make friends with cops. It's kind of a gross thing to say to somebody when they've been really affected in a violent way. And, I did some contracting work. So I helped collect some of those petitions. And I do want to say, every time I come to talk to you, I'm always concerned about corruption. With that being said, I collected the petitions and handed them to the library. And then I was told I could come back later to help count them if I wanted to. But I didn't. I spent time with my kids. And then I found out that later on, after the next day, after people stayed till 1 a.m. in the morning counting all the ballots, they were told by someone, I don't know who, someone in the city said, well, we don't really want your vote counts. We're going to tally them ourselves. Anyways, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I mean, are the votes tallied and compared to each other, or does the city just get their own count? I mean, why is it so hard to have transparency? I really, really have to ask. And I'm going to hold the rest of my time for Patrick Leoya and other people that have criminal charges against them, including myself, for tax evasion from 2010. Because I don't keep my tax returns from 2010, 11, 12, 13, or 14.
All right, thank you. All right, others wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
I'm Jeremy, the 3rd Ward. When I was 4, there was lead in my home, and I almost died from it. But I'm 11 now. And I want to know if there's other kids like me. And what are you doing about it?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, any final comments?
Hello, my name is Aurora and I live in the 3rd Ward. We don't come here to express our hate towards you. We come here to express our love for the community.
All right, thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Samantha, and I'm standing in a school in the 3rd Ward where people are expressing to you their concerns about toxic water. And I want to point out one thing, the audacity that you all have today to be sitting here with clean water. Some of you have multiple bottles of clean water. Would you not drink from the school's water? Why is it that you guys have clean water and people have to beg for filters? Why are people's kids being injured? But you sit here with it'd probably be safe to say spring water at that. Why is that okay? That's a lot of audacity for all of you. Seriously. The water's not good enough for you, huh? What about our kids? This school sits in the 3rd Ward. These kids have toxic water. And you come and sit inside this school with your bottles of water. Think about that. Justice for Patrick.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Good evening. Daniel, resident of Grand Rapids for over 35 years. More importantly, I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's my real identity. This is what the Holy Scriptures say. This act does the Lord hate. Yes, this act is an abomination unto him, hands that shed innocent blood. I'd like to...
Please do not interrupt him. He has a right to be heard just as much as everybody else who came up to speak, even if we don't agree with him.
Thank you. I would like to highlight another procedure that is used at 320 East Fulton.
Mr. Scott, please do not describe something that we have children in this room. Please.
They need to hear this.
No, be mindful of who is in this space.
I am mindful.
Be respectful, please.
I'm going to share a very gruesome procedure.
Well, then I'm going to ask to have your microphone shut off. You can share it, but I'm not going to amplify it. No, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott, share your opinion, but leave the disgusting.
This is called a partial birth.
Don't interrupt him. Let him be heard.
Guided by the ultrasound, the murderer grabs the baby's leg with
We've
forceps.
already heard it. We know his position.
The baby's
so we're
leg
done.
is pulled out into
Just
the
do
birth
it. Step up.
The
I'll
murderer
take
delivers
Okay.
the baby's
All right.
entire body except for the head.
Mr. Scott, we've already heard you say this, so I'm gonna end your time. You know what? I'm gonna end your time. I'm gonna end it. I'm not. You know what? There are young people in this room. There are young people in this room. What was that, Mr.? Okay, we're gonna close this public comment period. We're gonna close this public comment period, and I'll turn the comment period's done. Mr. Scott, stop screaming and disrupting this meeting. That's your warning. I'm telling you to stop disrupting this meeting. Mr. Scott, we're ending the public comment period. No, we're ending public comment. Stop. I told you to stop. We're ending. I have the authority to end public comment, and that's what I'm doing. So please sit down. Please sit down. Please sit down. All right. Okay, so I'm going to turn to my colleagues. I know that a couple stepped out of the room, so I'm going to turn to my third ward colleagues for comments, and then we're going to move to city business. I'll start with my third ward colleagues. Commissioner Moody, you want to start?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam
sir.
Mayor. I think what we've heard tonight in reference to the lead poisoning in our community, especially within the third ward, is a very important issue. And that we need to stay on top of this and to make sure that we get something done continuously for our residents. That's very important, especially within the third ward. I grew up in this community. I understand. I lived in places where we had lead in our homes, especially in the paint areas. And I think it's important that we make some provisions as to how we need to continue to work in this effort to clear up this issue. I appreciate everything that we've heard tonight, and I'm asking that the community, especially using the third ward, be patient with us. We still have a lot more work to do, but we need your help in doing it. We cannot do it alone, but we got to do it honestly, and we got to do it righteously, we got to do it justly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lanier?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to first thank Chief Larry Johnson and his team, as well as the GRPS staff that's here tonight that opened the doors for us to be here, to the city staff for this setup. I know it takes a lot to kind of build out all of this equipment to be able to have a meeting like this. And then to all of the community who took time out of their schedules to join us and to lend your voice in those sessions at those tables to participate in the dialogue surrounding the community survey. I'd like to thank the neighborhood associations and their representatives who are here tonight, who also spread the word in getting people out. As was mentioned earlier, we talked about the participatory budgetary process, and I'd like to thank the committee members who represented the third ward, Pastor Kenneth Hoskins, Christian Grant, as well as Lakia Jenkins for their service. I know that I think when we reached out, we were talking about 6 months, and it was over a year. So thank you for your dedication despite the increase in the timeline. And I just also like to say to Frederica, Sarah, and Latasha, you all mentioned the list earlier. And if you could please email that to me. I was capturing some of it, but wasn't able to capture it all. My email address is slenear, SLENEAR @grcity.us. It's on the back of the agenda or at the end of the agenda somewhere. If you could email that to me, I'd greatly appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who came out and provided public comments tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Repart?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We had a great conversation at the table I was sitting at, and I hope you all did as well. And I do want to thank the staff as well for all the massive effort to get everybody here. The one thing I want to highlight from our day, and again, my thanks to Deputy Chief Reifenberg, Sergeant Witkowski, Officer Smith, and Clinician Lung for sharing with us about the early successes of the co-response model You can see that in our public safety meeting this afternoon. 325 calls that they've responded to from service, 23 jail diversions, 87 diversions from emergency rooms, and over 120 diversions from EMS, the need for taking an ambulance in just 3 months with just one car. So encouraged by that direction. Thank you to the folks within the department who were instrumental in putting that together and rolling it out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with that in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo the thanks for the partnerships and everybody. I saw communications office loading up in the elevator to get all this equipment over here today. Thank you to all those who came down and engaged in dialogue. I think that's always needed. I also want to just thank a number, we're in the 3rd Ward. I grew up in the 3rd Ward, so glad to be here. But this month, there were a number of neighborhood associations in the 2nd Ward. We were able to go, Commissioner Jones and I were able to go to connect with our NECA neighbors last week, talk to them about their concerns, as well as yesterday going to East Hills and talking about their concerns as well. And so continue and appreciate those opportunities. And I look forward to our next meetings and our mid-year review. I know Ms. Bohach is in the back, I think. And thank you to Healthy Homes and the parents and the young people for coming out and for your continued advocacy. I do think it would be good to continue to make sure that we are sharing the details about what is occurring in Grand Rapids as it relates to lead poisoning, our housing stock, and some of the pieces that I know Mayor, Commissioner Lanier, and Commissioner Ruppert, you all have worked very, very hard on. And so I think it's important to continue to make sure we are sharing the appropriate information so that we can all be educated and work towards a common goal of reducing lead poisoning in our community.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to say a special thank you to James Hart and John Gorney, who are here tonight, who manage our Public Works and Public Services departments, along with Ken Smith and Kay Weirda, who work in our Public Services department. I had an opportunity to spend some quality time with those folks and gentlemen last week. They were competing in the American Public Works Snowplow Rodeo that happens every year, and so they let me get behind the wheel of a city truck and drive around, and it was, I got to spend some time learning about their job and what it's like to do the work that they do. They plow snow in the wintertime, but in the summertime they're doing things like fixing water mains and repairing sidewalks and doing that type of work. And it was really great to hear what they do and how much they appreciate the work at the city and how much they care about doing their job. And so they're not the folks you might see every day, but I know that they're super critical to the success that we have here in Grand Rapids. So I just really appreciate those folks for sharing a little bit of insight into what it's like to do their job at the city to help maybe be some of the unsung heroes that we have. Secondly, I just, this water was sitting here. I'm drinking it because it's in front of me, but I'm proud to drink Grand Rapids City water every day of my life. I make my coffee with it in the morning. I drink my tea with it all day, every day. I use it at my business. I feed it to my 3-year-old daughter. I'm proud of the work the water we have in Grand Rapids. We're going to talk about some budgeted items here in a few minutes. As it relates to lead service lines, we know that there are lead service lines in the city, and we're working diligently to replace all of them for every resident in the city. But we have an amazing water department who monitors the quality of our water at every step of the way to ensure that even if you have a lead service line in your house, that the water that comes out of your tap is safe to drink and safe for all of us to consume. And so I know that there are other lead concerns in our community, certainly, but I believe in the water that we serve here in Grand Rapids and that we provide.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner, for saying that. Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank everyone for coming out on this evening, for your presence, for your participation earlier. I also want to recognize and thank city staff for being present and making yourself available for any questions or concerns that residents may have. I want to recognize and thank Principal Neal for the use of the building, as well as Mr. Larry Johnson for his coordination of this evening. And I want to kind of speak to what my colleague, Commissioner Ruppert, had spoke of earlier, and that was we had an opportunity earlier in the Public Safety Committee to hear from, in particular, 2 individuals who were speaking to the work of the mobile crisis team. And What I could appreciate the most was, we have been asked as a city to obviously do things differently as it pertains to law enforcement. And one of the requests that had significant support was this idea of having a co-response model where you have a clinician that's present in situations where a call comes in and it's made known that the individual on the other end of the phone, perhaps, or someone who's within that vicinity has a mental health issue, and that it would be wise to also include a mental health clinician along with law enforcement. And to my colleague's point, Commissioner Rippart, this is something that is working, and it's no surprise because we're seeing it obviously throughout the country where other departments are doing it. My hope, and I asked on this afternoon, my hope is to see it expand. My hope is to see it as something that is constantly a part of how policing is done, because again, it is an opportunity to divert incidents that could grow into being something more serious. And so I'm appreciative of that work, and I think that it's obviously a way forward, but it also, I think, speaks to this was, again, a request, a suggestion, something that was brought forward by community to engage and try, and we're doing it. And I just want to recognize that again, this is an opportunity to recognize that we're listening and that we're trying to engage in something that actually works. And so I'm proud of those results that were provided on this afternoon, and the belief is that we can do even better. And so, again, thank you to those who were there on this afternoon at Public Safety. And again, thank you for all of you for being here on this evening. Also want to recognize and thank the men of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated for your presence here on this evening as well. Ruru.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Clerk?
How do I follow that? No. First of all, we provided water up here as a convenience to the commission. While Commissioner Samudi is speaking, I refilled my water bottle from the tap. I echoed Commissioner O'Connor with our water. So it was given to the commission for convenience. Nothing was meant untoward. Moving on to elections, we are 3 weeks away from Election Day and the midterms, and absentee ballots have been out for a couple weeks now. So if you want to get an absentee ballot, all voters are eligible for absentee ballots. You can go to michigan.gov/vote. You can register, or you can request an application online, so it's really easy and simple. We're preparing for Election Day, so if you need to check your precinct where you vote, if you want to make sure where your voter registration is up to date for where you reside, once again, michigan.gov/vote. Know before you go. Thanks.
Thank you. City Attorney? City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I am very pleased with the conversations I had the privilege to be part of, as well as the opportunity to hear some of the comments during public hearing. This is what we envisioned when we were wanting to have the deliberate dialogue, and I think a lot of the conversation that offered exchange earlier is very helpful. I learned some things from interacting with residents, and I want to thank all the staff that's here today, those persons that are behind you, but also people that are not here that are part of putting together the packets for the meetings. And just a couple of highlights. There are items on the agenda tonight to continue to support members of our in-house community. There is a continuation of a project in terms of a storage project with Mel Trotter that the commission will be voting on. And there are efforts to improve some of the public facilities and restrooms at both Hartside Park, Peckage Park, and have year-round access to those facilities. And so we are continuing to improve the quality of life for all of our residents, to include the unhoused. And there are some people, some staff here from the water department who will be happy to talk to you, anyone here today who have questions about water quality. There is no concern that I've been presented to me about issues with drinking quality of water, the boil notices that may occasionally happen are often due to water main breaks and after repair and getting the system on, but there is nothing that is causing a water boil due to lead contamination. But the staff that are here are happy to talk to you about that as well, and we're looking forward to continued discussions around the efforts. I saw we had staff that were here with our lead paint program, Mr. Paul Hahn, and we will be talking more about some of the rental certification inspection programs that we can implement, and have that discussion in depth with the City Commission at our upcoming workshop. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. And I'll add final comments before we move along to our agenda. So first, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I really appreciate this time connecting, appreciated the dialogue and conversation at the tables that I was able to be a part of, and really all of your feedback. And if by chance you didn't get a chance to share a direct concern with the city staff, please do so before you leave tonight. We have a lot of folks here who will take down the information and follow up as quickly as possible. A couple other things. Reggie, I want to continue to thank you for your work. I come from a long lineage of veterans. My father is a vet. He served in Vietnam. He was drafted. I have 4 brothers who served, 2 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan. I have seen up close and personal the impact of war and PTSD and mental health. Please know that I've long been a supporter of the work being done to support vets, and really appreciate your work, and just want to let you know that you have a supporter in me and here at the city. And I know I've seen you out and about a lot, but just want to say thank you for that. And a couple other things. Appreciate Healthy Homes and the parents being out tonight, and the young woman who spoke. This has long been a priority for me, both as a city commissioner and as mayor. I have been very clear that I am supportive of doing a pilot and implementing stronger requirements here in the city, especially for rental properties. I'll continue to stand by that. I'm very grateful that we have Paul Hahn here working at the city that can help us navigate that. But when it comes before me, I will be happy to vote on that. Also want to echo, we know that the vast majority of children in our city, and this isn't true for all cities, but in our city, the vast majority of children who are poisoned by lead paint, by dust in homes and in soils. And I share concern about lead pipes and lead in water that other cities have had to deal with, and the tragedies that exist. We are replacing our lead lines. It's a state mandate. We actually decided to do it before the state mandated us to do it because it's the right thing to do. But the water quality is good in our city. Children are not being poisoned in our city by lead in their paint. If you have any concerns about water quality, please talk to our city staff. We put out a lot of reports. We monitor it. We test it consistently. It's a huge priority for us to make sure that when you turn on your tap, it is safe drinking water. And thank you, City Clerk. Usually I have my own blue water bottle that I fill up at the tap when I'm at meetings, and tonight it was just a convenience before us tonight. But if you have any concerns, please let us know. That's really an essential function of city government, is to make sure that you have clean water coming out of your tap. And the last thing, I will continue to work with volunteers and partners in the community to plant trees, because trees are absolutely essential to air quality. Trees help clean air, and air quality contributes to asthma. So a lot of the things that we talk tonight, they're interconnected. It's not that we care about one more than the other. We care about a lot of things. And some of you at our tables, we talked about that it's not just one issue. We have all of these issues that are intertwined together, and we have to put energy in all of them because they're all important to make sure that we have a good quality of life for anyone who calls Grand Rapids home. So we know that planting trees helps with air quality, helps clean water, and it's going to help us reverse climate change. And the tree planting that I partner with Friends of Grand Rapids Parks to do every year, we target areas of our city that are deplete trees that we know we need to add more trees to. And we do it all with donated dollars and with volunteers. So I'm going to say thank you to the people who came out and volunteered to help us do that with no cost to taxpayers. It wasn't taxpayer dollars. Same with all the volunteers. We had hundreds of volunteers come out and help us clean up the Grand River for the Grand River cleanup. And I just want to say thank you. That's what community is all about. It's about supporting your neighbor. It's about showing up. It's about being a part of making our community a better place. And us up here at this table, we can't do that alone. We need to do it as a community. And I'm really grateful to be out tonight with you to hear your concerns and to figure out what else we can do together to improve our community. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your presence tonight, and I appreciate these settings where we can come together and have these kind of conversations. So with that, I'm going to move along to our city agenda, and I will ask my colleagues for a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Support. All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to petitions and communications. We have 2 items tonight.
The first one is a communication received from Don Boltman, president of Southbridge Condo Association, petitioning to improve the local cell tower to better serve the area.
All right, that's received and filed.
And communication received from Eliana Bootson, executive director of Neighbors of Belknap Lookout, expressing support to convert commercial space to residential space at 201 Hastings Street Northeast.
And that is received and filed. All right, next that will take us to reports of city officers.
First one is Comptroller's report for the period of September 21, 2022 through October 4, 2022, in the amount of $17,577,317.13.
That is received and filed.
And the Treasurer's report for the period of September 22, 2022 through October 4, 2022.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. Our consent agenda are items that we voted on earlier today in one of our standing committee meetings where there was a unanimous vote. So tonight with one voice vote, we'll adopt those items. Commissioners, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to ordinances to be adopted, and we have 4 ordinances before us tonight.
The first one is a consideration of an ordinance rezoning 101, 119, and 135 Garden Street Southeast, 670 to SD-PRD, which is Special Districts Planned Redevelopment District, for the redevelopment of an existing industrial building into a mixed-use development and the construction of 16 detached homes.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, thank you. Moved and supported. Commissioner Lanier, you want to tell us about this?
I think, Mayor, the only thing I'd add is that this was an item up for discussion back on October 4th, and we voted to make tonight, October 18th, the night for consideration.
Yeah, thank you so much. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Lanier?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, that will take us to our second ordinance tonight.
Ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2022-13 for fiscal year 2023, Amendment Number 4.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner O'Connor from our fiscal committee, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a big budget ordinance for the night of 20 items. The first 3 items are related to our public library, including approval of the collective bargaining agreement and associated expenditures for their future budgets. Item 4 is Facilities Management Department is just been some increased costs, so it's just appropriating dollars to cover the increased costs. Number 5, Community Development Department, CDBG Home-Led Grant Program. Community Development is requesting an increased estimated revenue and appropriations of $204,000 to account for income earned for the CDBG Block Grant Program for lead hazard reduction grants, which is a great deal. Number 6, we're just purchasing some new equipment in our fleet department necessary for the, I believe it's a backhoe. Number 7, clerk. We received a $111,000 grant from the state for election security. Number 8 and 9 are 2 grants. One is a license renewal for some software for forensic data extraction. Number 9, we talked about the auto theft prevention grant that we received. This is just appropriating those dollars. Number 10 is a fire department FEMA grant that we talked about at our last meeting that we are appropriating. Number 11 is for our 61st District Court Drug and Sobriety Court Diversion Program, which has had good success over the years. Number 12 is 61st District Court Sobriety Court Expansion Programs to allocate some grant dollars. Number 13 is we're using some ARPA funds to fund some elevator reconstructions in some of our parking facilities to meet ADA guidelines. I think this is the one I was talking about earlier. It's a big item of note. Items 14, 15, and 16. Our engineering department is recognizing and appropriating revenue for the replacement of lead service lines. Those three items total over $6.8 million that we're going to be spending on lead service replacement lines, which should impact just shy of 1,100 homes throughout our community. That work will begin here in October and run through the spring in the cycle of lead service line replacements. Item 17 is an appropriation of $1.7 million for pretreatment systems at our Lake Michigan filtration plant for our water system. 18 is a continued appropriation for the relocation of the east side trunk sewer line. Items 19 is related to the improvements that we're doing around the Elger Ravine. And item 20 is the reconstruction of Emerald Avenue from Leonard to Sweet Street. There's no impact on our contingent balance.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate all those items coming before us today. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Aye.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our third ordinance to be adopted tonight.
Yes, that is a salary ordinance for employees represented by the Grand Rapids Firefighters Union, IAFF, Local 366.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Moody, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This salary ordinance is would improve the implements for the provision of the labor agreement between the City of Grand Rapids and the Grand Rapids firefighter with an increase of 10% for the agreement which was made by the fire department, by Firefighters Union, IAFF, Local 366.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our last ordinance tonight, which is a companion item.
Ordinance amending.
Mayor, I just want to clarify for the record on the last vote and make sure I heard Commissioner Moody correctly that the collective impact of that was 8% over the 3-year period. I thought I heard another number.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, City Manager, I did say 10%, that was incorrect.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay, thanks. And the next item talks about the budget amendment, so.
Ordinance amending, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks.
Ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2022-13 for fiscal year 2023, Amendment Number 5.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner Isasi, you want to tell us about this item?
Thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, this is a companion item, essentially the budget adjustment for this, for what we just voted on. This approval would authorize an increase of $812,690 in the appropriations of our general operating fund for the fire department, account 1010, with a corresponding decrease in the fund balance, and this is no change to our contingent balance.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Asasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart? Yes. Commissioner Lanier?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, it carries. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, next up will take us to our scheduled public hearing tonight. We have two, but we'll combine them because they're related to the same project. So this is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment, as well as the establishment of a neighborhood enterprise zone for a project located at 280 Ann, LLC redevelopment. It's actually called 280 Ann LLC redevelopment project at 280 Ann Street Northwest. So what we'll do is we'll first thank you both for coming. We have some guests with us tonight, but first we'll start with our Director of Economic Development, Mr. Gracia. He'll do an overview of this project. Our guests will be welcome to share any additional information, and then we'll open it up for public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. So this project here is again for project at 280 Ann Street. And again, this project is developing reimbursement for brownfield eligible activities for environmental assessment, demolition, site preparation, again, infrastructure improvements to reimburse over a 15-year period, an additional 5 years of capture for the local brownfield revolving loan fund. It's also important to note this project, like all others that are seeking support from the Economic Development Office, has completed its inclusion plan, and its combined levels of participation would equal or amount to 30% of the overall project cost, or a little over $1.6 million. This project also has a separate item related to a neighborhood enterprise zone for the public hearing, but as far as the overall project parameters, I'd like to invite Mr. Hodeman, the developer, to talk a little bit about the project itself.
Great, thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Very excited to be here. Very impressed with this format. The last time I was here to talk about Victory on Leonard, the 120-unit market rate project that we have, it was all over Zoom. So to be here in front of you guys is very exciting. I'm very impressed with how all of these services are available to the community and how you guys were all sitting with your constituents and engaging with the community. But I can't tell you enough how important these programs are to make these projects go, because the Victory on Leonard project probably would not have happened. In fact, I know it wouldn't have happened without the neighborhood enterprise zone and the brownfield credits. So similar to that, we're looking to expand on the 15,000 square foot building that was vacant for many, many years. We spent $1.5 million to rehabilitate that building. Now we're looking to spend close to $8 million to do 44 market rate apartments. And these programs are essential to help bring this much needed housing to the Grand Rapids area. So we're very excited to be making these huge investments in the community and to be part of the solution for the housing that so many people are looking for.
Great, thank you.
Any questions?
Let me see. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Lanier?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for being here. I actually think my question is for city staff. Jeremiah, I think you mentioned that there's an inclusion plan. How is that different than the VITA that exists for developers to use when they're creating development in our city? And why aren't we using VITAs instead of creating a new inclusion process?
So certainly can incorporate both elements. The inclusion plan is a separate policy or a program that we created in January of 21 specifically for projects seeking support from our economic development, or so-called traditional development programs that are intentional about seeking out contracts from MBE, MOB, and WBE contractors. And so per state law, we can't require that to take place, but we can encourage based on our strategic initiatives, and so that's how the path we've taken with that. The VITA itself is different in terms of some other potential elements that aren't included in the inclusion plan specifically, right? And so one of the important projects we worked on recently was Boston Square Together, and obviously that was a much more holistic process. We actually came with a voluntary equitable development and community partnership agreement, which we meet on a regular basis. These projects here obviously are, we do track on the inclusion plan. So we do look at the commitments, the actuals for after bidding, and then post-contract, and working through that to making sure that they are held accountable to those numbers as well as reasonable, right? We also know that we're also creating our own demand for this, and the supply side is another piece on the inclusion plan that we know we need to work with. And we are supporting organizations that are helping build up the supply side so that folks can be a part of bidding on these projects themselves.
And then can you talk a little bit more about the nature of the number of apartments, the size of them? I think it was already mentioned that they're market rates, so it would be great to hear what the average rents will be in the units, and why we would recommend a 15-year brownfield tax credit for this project.
You're talking specifically brownfield or NEC?
For both.
For both. So, in terms of the size and the pricing, I'll turn to Mr. Hodeman on that, of each unit, but you can look on the table that there are 24 units.
I don't have the table in front of me, sorry. My agenda is, I don't have my laptop here in front of me.
Sure. So there are 44 units. Of those, 24 of those are at 60% AMI with a monthly rent of $950. Those are the studio apartments, and those are square feet of 365. And then the other 20 are 80% AMI, monthly rent of $1,300. Those are one bedrooms, and again, those are 590 square feet.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
No, and we like to describe it as attainable market rate, because our studies in the community that the benchmark for many people that are out there, if they can rent something and be less than $1,000, that fits amazing into their budget. So we're anticipating that there's going to be a really high adoption rate for these attainable market rate apartments that are on the water with green spaces, with balconies, and we're really excited about the project.
Yeah, and I think that was part of why I asked for those details to be shared, so that the public, because they just have the agenda item itself and not the details, so that they can hear that level of detail. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. If you're here to be heard on this public hearing, you're welcome to come forward. Again, same rules apply. We ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. And again, this is very specific to this request.
How you doing? My name is DeAndre Jones. I like the project you guys are doing. I just hope that you allow people of color to get these units. This is a sustainable project, it seems like, that's affordable housing or market rate housing, but I would like you guys to allow people of color to be able to get these homes, because I would like a house by the water if I can afford to, or live by the water, you know what I'm saying? That'd be a beautiful sight, especially with some green space. So I just hope you guys are equitable with these units like the project. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello. So I find it interesting that we have community organizations begging for money for affordable housing, neighborhood associations who say that they have the capacity to administer certain funds and could be the ones to do so to help people find housing ownership. But we're perpetuating the very definition of gentrification with this. Market rate housing is not what we need in the Third Ward. We need responsive housing to the actual needs. And it's a sort of interesting gaslighting to not just use the word gentrification in this. Like even 60 to 80% AMI, of course there's a demand. There's a very high demand that whatever you build will get filled quickly. It's an inelastic demand situation. Like, we need the housing. But this is not the solution. And for 15 years, my question is how much private property is and profit is in this project? What happened to the Housing Commission and the over 200 plus homes that we had from 2016 to 2018? The economic model here is still bending completely towards corporate and for-profit systems. If you're only going to be able to allow for 40 to 60% 60 to 80% AMI, then come on. You are only dealing with the corporate developers and access to home ownership and the backed up Title VIII. You shouldn't be able to have a dime of profit from housing until everyone is housed. You are the government. You are not private contractors. And the values are fully on display here. Why are we still talking about creating a plan? And maybe we'll deal with gentrification. Creating a plan, a new inclusion plan, when we had VITAs, we had systems of equity, but now we need a whole new thing in 2021. You've had a 20-year master plan that didn't have equity involved. You come to the neighborhood summit regarding equity and say, yeah, we're going to get community comment on this. But your legislation is a gaslighting gentrification. No profit. I say no to this, 100%. And if you don't say no, then you are saying yes to gentrification, yes to corporate control over housing, and yes to the commodification of all aspects of Grand Rapids. And this is a dismal, disgusting investment. You cannot say you're committed to housing first, to Grand Rapidians first. If you're going to get $1,300, yeah, that might be a college student, that might be a nursing student that can live on the water and is going to get that beautiful home. But is Dee going to get that? with how much work he does for the community. Come on. We can do better. Thanks.
All right. Others wish to be heard?
I need to hook up with you after this because you keep pulling my leftist chain. That's good stuff. Thank you. I want to clarify, to be fair, I don't know that this is First Ward, I think, right, for this development. So that's why I'm going to comment, because I live in the First Ward and I see the folks outside that need a place to live. You know, I'm a broken record about my Nashville lessons. I've told a lot of you that I couldn't afford the house that we rent on Walker Avenue if you took the same neighborhood and transplanted it into the greed center that is my hometown, Music City, USA. That's a problem, and you're headed there. Not everybody's lucky like me to have a landlord sign a 2-year extension on a lease. In fact, I've heard lease extensions are a weird rarity and it's not normal in Michigan, and you just have to live with the possibility of your rent going up every 60 days. That ain't cool, but he's cool, and he said we're paying as much as he could allow his conscience to charge us. He's a good guy. Most of them aren't. So I'm not gonna come and crap on this guy's development because I just looked at it 5 minutes ago. But what I'm gonna crap on is the idea that you don't one-to-one. Every single time you go 60 or 80%, which doesn't tackle the need. You need to go 20 and 30, 1-to-1 unit ratios. And if you're gonna do these developments, you need to house first responders and teachers at discounted rates. You need to find a way to back that. And if the state's in your way, and you've heard me say this before, I'm looking at you, have the guts to go to court with them. Let them sue you. Let them come after you. Because one of the reasons I left Nashville is they didn't have the sack to get sued and fight the tyrants on Capitol Hill. I want you guys to stand up and fight. So if you can't do it because your hands are tied, change it. If you gotta have a fight, do that. Learn something from that guy that I can't stand, but I will borrow his bullying from, and learn to beat the media drum like Trump, and you'll get what you want, and you'll actually be right about it, unlike Trump. So please, I don't know. I'm not gonna jump in and fight with this dude. I don't know him. But 1-to-1, man. 1-to-1. I got a lot of people standing in Alpine and Stocking that would love to have some access. And they may be standing there because you keep approving 80% housing and 60% housing. So give that some thought.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard on this item?
Yeah, my name is Cindy Hicks, and I'm still a real estate agent. My opinions are my own. I did wear my sweater so people can see I'm a real estate agent with a brokerage. I really would like to see more restrictions put on redevelopment dollars. It'd be really nice to see people that live in those wards be awarded those dollars. So often, I see the disconnect on the front lines because I own property right in the middle of all the gentrification that's going on. And it's really disappointing when you use all your own personal resources to plan housing developments and nonprofits and people in the city, and you utilize all these connections that you have, hoping to get the help that you need to get it off the ground, only to find out that other people will come along and sabotage things. But with that being said, I really feel that brownfield development money should be utilized in areas that are financially depressed, and that's something that community development block grant money used to be strictly used for, what they called at-risk areas. And now I see the dollars stretched across areas being used for, folks that can afford a little bit more for rent, instead of, the people, defecating in my yard, because that really does happen. And, my kids' winter boots were sabotaged from human feces last winter. So, I just like to keep it real, because this is really my real life. And my kid's really, Mr. Connor, my child, is really stepping in human feces, okay? I brought the boot to City Commission just to prove I wasn't lying, okay? So, it really matters when money stays in communities and gets circulated to the people that have lived there and committed to making this their home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Me again, Casey from the 3rd Ward. So you're coming up here and you're saying things like affordable housing and equal opportunity, right?
Casey, can you direct your comments to us, please?
So they're talking about affordable housing and equal opportunity, right? In order to qualify to get into a house, you have to make 3 times rent. So in their paperwork, did they write down that they're going to take the lowest wages in Grand Rapids, divide that by 1/3, and start rent there? Because that would be affordable housing. As soon as you take the medium wage and divide that by 1/3 and do the numbers, you're now not equal opportunity. Is this another thing that you're putting your face on a flyer for? Because the last complex that you did that for was infested with bugs. What is this doing for ownership? Like, just a lease that can at any time be violated, broken, and then you're back on the street. So when I come up and I ask questions like, are they basing the rent prices starting from the lowest wages in Grand Rapids and dividing that by 1/3 and starting from the rent being there? It would be great if you could engage back and say, they're starting the numbers at this because this, and that would be a back and forth. But I see the back and forth with you and him when he comes up to make a little amendment to the proposal. And then you're gonna give him 10 years for tax exemption, right? Isn't that what they do here in Grand Rapids? This is your equal opportunity, affordable housing. What year does your term end? Right now I have to stay in my lease because I can't get into another one because inflation has went up so high, so high. So where I'm at, I'm kind of stuck. Try not to ruin that for me, you guys. But good news, the water lady took me outside to say we might get a new lead pipe. Then we just have to get the owners of the houses to fix the pipes within the houses. There are so many housing crises going on, and you're building pretty complexes where dogs can poop inside and fake grass. Woo! And you're so proud, like you smile so big on those flyers, like you mean it. Like full-heartedly. So, yeah, I would like to see those numbers from the lowest minimum wages, divide that by 1/3, start rent there, and then you can use terms like equal opportunity, affordable housing. Otherwise, don't.
All right, others wish to be heard on this item. It's the project on Ann Street.
Hello, Mark Beck. Okay, I understand they talk about market rate. Fine. But don't use brownfield development for market rate. You know who you people remind me of? You remind me of Lions quarterback Jared Goff. They scheme plays for him, but when plays break down, he can't create outside the play structure. This is what y'all doing. Y'all allowing private investors to use brownfield money so they can create units that are going to be affordable to individuals who can afford it. You cannot create outside the play structure. You can take that brownfield development money and put it into more affordable housing. If they want to build it, if they want to build their units on Ann Street, fine. I don't have a problem with that. Use their own money. And then that free up more money to build more affordable housing. Because you have there are dilapidated buildings out there that are prime for more housing, more affordable housing, more low-income housing. But you have to create outside the play structure in order for that to happen. You can't use cheap money for private investors to buy low and sell high, because that's what it is. You have to think about this. Because if you don't, there's going to be more people going to zero in on that brownfield money, and they're going to be creating Beverly Hills, hillbilly style housing, in which only the less than 1% can afford. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard?
Ned Andre, 3rd Ward. Just a quick definition. The city has diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of its language. And that word equity is very confusing to a lot of people. People often think of it as equality or fairness, that kind of thing. But a second definition, if we were all on Wall Street and I said to you, hey man, we got a great deal going, I want to give you an equity stake in this deal. That's ownership. That's, I get a chance to get in. And I want the city of Grand Rapids to take that definition to heart. It's not just fairness. My entire life I've witnessed the city of Grand Rapids offer equal opportunity to everyone. The RFP goes out, you got the flyer, you can come to the meetings, you get to participate. But decade after decade, we have disparate outcomes. So everybody got the equal opportunity. There's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars sunk into the river. A lot of opportunity. The RFP will go out. There's not a black contractor in the city that can move 20-ton boulders with heavy equipment and get into the river and do the project. So when the RFP goes out, we already know who's going to get the job. And it's the same thing here with housing. In my community, in the 3rd Ward, a historically black neighborhood, fewer than 30% of the residents own their own home. I would be embarrassed to put those figures up. And as this housing comes in, these numbers, and I don't have anything against the developers myself. It's capitalism. It's kind of at the root cause of a lot of this. We're looking for all of you to stand up and say, we can't take the easy money. We can't take participatory budgeting money. We know the lead isn't in the water, but the people don't. They're uneducated, and they say, hey, they want to dump $500K into the lead pipes. Ka-ching, the city gets that. It's free money. And the same thing happens over and over again with developers on the land, that the residents ought to own the land. We should, the people. The Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the state of Michigan, power resides with the people. Equity is not equal in this instance, it's ownership. You have got to make ownership a real possibility for people so that the housing development that goes in, maybe you use a land trust model and the people aren't getting an apartment, maybe they own that unit instead of renting it. I live in a city in the 3rd Ward. There's 70% of the population in the African American community are renters. We're renting in our own neighborhood. Decade after decade after decade. People need you to stand up. Fight for the people. Fight the big developers. Don't create another 501c. Don't let them make another 501c. The city can't abscond, or pardon me,
Thank you,
abdicate
Ned.
its responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you, Ned. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? All right, I'm going to close that public hearing then. That'll be referred back to Committee of the Whole.
Point of order.
And with that,
Point of order, Madam Chair. Can you have the staff and the developers come back to respond to the,
sure.
because I know we frequently do that when
Sure.
there's public comment?
Yeah. Mr. Gracio or the developer, do you want to respond to any of the comments that you heard?
And if you, just in case you weren't taking notes, I'll just rattle off a couple of the items. There were questions about ownership. There were also questions about AMI and is there room to reduce your AMI percentages? And then I think, do you have the capacity to build this without the tax credits? Those were the questions.
Those are all great questions. And, inflation, is this the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to cost of construction? There's a huge labor shortage, and so the cost of materials, the cost of labor, the cost of really everything has gone up. And then we have to deal with those constraints. We also have to deal with the constraints of rising interest rates. We really don't know what the interest rate's going to be once we close on this project. And we also have to deal inside of the constraints of what the banking institutions will loan us money for. So there's a lot of constrictions as to what happens there. So we very thoughtfully designed a project to bring as many units to market at the cheapest possible price.
Wait, okay, please don't interrupt him. He's responding.
I think it's also worth noting that the land that this is going on was vacant for over 10 years. So in 2017, when I bought that building and spent $1.5 million to rehabilitate it, it had been vacant for a decade. So there was this, what I thought was a really fabulous building on the water that could be an asset to the community, and we rehabilitated it.
Stop interrupting him. He has a right to speak.
You
already had a chance to speak.
So we created jobs in the community so people can contribute to the tax base and be members of the First Ward, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that development, and now we're building on top of the parking lot to bring these units. It is the contractor, Honor Construction, is a veteran-owned business. It's a micro-owned business. He is engaged with the city on inclusion plans. He goes out of his way to award contracts to minority and women-owned businesses. For the Victory on Leonard project, we exceeded all of the expectations that were set for the inclusion plan that we did. So we anticipate that we'll also be able to exceed the inclusion plan on this project. So I'm very proud of the investments that we're doing. And there is a tremendous amount of risk. We may lose money. We may not make any money. We absolutely could lose money on these projects. So it is because of the support of you guys and the Brownfield and the NEZ that makes these projects possible. So I really appreciate you giving me some time to respond, and I think I answered all the questions. But
I think the ownership was the last one, that there probably is no room for ownership. Did you
not at this time. And again, that's a restriction from the bank. They do not want to finance condos at this time. So the condominium financing is what would give people an ownership. So at some point in the future, we could consider that, but at this ground up financing, we're limited by what the banks will allow us to do.
Thank you. Mr. Gracia, anything to add?
Just briefly, it's important to note this is all reimbursable money, right? So the developer is spending the money first, and it is reimbursed over time. So there's no upfront money in this, and it is generated from the tax increment revenue from the development itself, right? And so it's important to note that this is not any upfront money. It's reimbursable over that term, and it is validated that money is actually spent. So each year we go through that process, and we have commissioned to serve on our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and we validate that the money that was spent is in fact eligible and can be reimbursable in only to those limits. And so this is obviously a maximum number, but obviously we don't know what that looks like until the project is completed and we go through that year over year.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioners, if you have any additional questions, please follow up with Mr. Gracia, and we'll refer this back to our Committee of the Whole at a later date. Again, everyone, thank you for coming out tonight, and with that, we're adjourned.